Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Absolute Superman issue 9 by Jason Aaron, Rafa Sandoval, Fico Osio, and Ulysses Areola. Superman's life hangs in the balance as in the wake of being shot by 3 kryptonite bullets, Kal-El is taken to the Omega Men's hideout, where Primus, Jimmy, and some of the others try to pry the radioactive pieces of Kal-El's homeworld from his body. Aaron drops us right into the middle of this chaotic situation. People are talking over each other, they're rushing around this room, and Superman is just screaming, which obviously isn't a normal scream thanks to his powers, and it's so loud that it actually destroys the operating theater they are in. It's a great way to just hit the ground running and get us back into the story for the issue. Eventually they get one of the bullets out, but that's when the Omega Men realize that the bullets are unstable, slowly breaking down, so now it's a race against time to get them out of Kal-El's chest before they enter his bloodstream and kill him. That's a neat little extra bit of this kryptonite, and it kind of makes sense since this is synthetically made kryptonite by Brainiac. He basically 3D printed kryptonite, and much like 3D printed stuff, it's kind of untreated, quote unquote, whereas in 3D printing you've got to kind of print the thing and then run a treatment chemical over it so it sort of hardens and solidifies, and it's kind of like that this kryptonite hasn't had that process done to it, so it's kind of unspooling and just kind of coming apart after a certain amount of time. It's kind of version 1.0 of kryptonite, and I'm sure we'll see a more refined, upgraded version as the series go on, and probably different colors as well. Kal knows he can get the bullet out quickly, grabbing the pliers and yanking another bullet out of his chest. Taking the second bullet out reboots Soul, as well as Kal-El passes out from the pain, left in the care of Primus. The leader of the Omega Men orders her men to bring her the box, something her men warn her against since it's untested. Here we finally get to see Primus's face as she removes her mask, and while her name isn't uttered, it's fairly certain that it's Talia al Ghul. She looks pretty much exactly how Talia al Ghul usually looks, and it makes sense. You know, she's battling her father who's obsessed with having a son. He didn't get to have a son, he had a daughter instead. She, you know, felt rejected from him. You know, it's all set up there. It's all set up for a big sort of father-daughter battle. It's also cool how Raish looks to be running a type of cult or religion with Lazarus, and Primus is kind of doing the exact same thing here with the Omega Men. She keeps saying things that are very culty or very much like a religious thing. Like, she says stuff like, oh, the Omega will provide and bless the Omega and all that sort of stuff. So here we have this kind of cool subplot of warring cults or warring religions in this world, and it's quite interesting. Especially because one of the religions seems to be very heavily focused on like the iconography of Darkseid, while the other one is all about life. And if you know anything about Darkseid, you know he's always after that anti-life equation, or something to do with anti-life. So I wonder if there's some sort of theme there that we haven't fully had fleshed out yet, and probably will be very soon with the big crossovers happening in the coming months. So it's a very exciting little subplot here with these warring cults. Primus's men bring her the box and activate it, revealing it to be a mother box, which racks Superman with pain, but helps heal him from the final bullet. At a Lazarus core base, the captured Lois Lane meets Ra's al Ghul, someone Lois knows all about but isn't impressed by. I've really been loving Aaron's evolution of this Lois and how she still all has those solid markers of her character from the Prime Universe, despite her being wildly different here from her Prime Universe counterpart. You know, there's still things like she has that fiery attitude, that search for the truth. She has that drive that puts her in positions where she, you know, is in danger, but she can look after herself, but she all in search of the truth. She isn't scared or intimidated by the big man in front of her. She just wants answers and to kind of get on with her job. Raish loves her fight, but warns her that if she disappoints him again, he will go after her father and finish off killing him. And saying this causes Lois to lunge at the man with a knife, but Raish isn't too worried, assuring Lois that if she was to cut his throat, he would just rise again, since Lazarus means life. Lois's plot has some really interesting developments as of late, since she clearly wants to do good. She wants to find that truth. She knows she's been lied to, but is constantly being put in a position where she kind of has to work for the bad guys. She has to kind of work within the parameters she's been given, and because she's kind of trapped, more or less. They've kind of trapped her in this life, and it's been made even harder now because Raish has just threatened her father. They're kind of using her father against her to get her to do their work, and I I like that because usually her father kind of breezes in and out of her life. In the Prime Universe, he only really shows up if there's some sort of military involvement. They're going after Superman for something in like the early stories. That's usually when he shows up. But here I like that they've kind of weaved it in so that he's a big part of her life while not really being present there either. Like he's the big stakes that she has to do her mission, and if she doesn't, he's going to end up being killed. Weeks later in Pakistan, Primus and the Omega Men launch an attack on the Peacemaker embassy there, attacking the Peacemakers. Primus almost kills one, but Superman stops her, demanding that she stop using deadly force. The woman refuses to do so, so Superman decides to end the threat quick, using his super speed to clear out the embassy. Superman's continued refusal to kill is so great since he's not afraid to go right to that edge. He definitely hurts people, and it's like seen here, like he burns a bunch of tanks with his rather violent heat vision, but before he does that, he makes sure all the Peacemakers are out of the vehicles and no one is actually going to be killed. It's just, a massive display of power and making himself the biggest threat in the room, so threats themselves stop. The Peacemakers, however, fight back, using robots to grab Superman and try to pull him limb from limb. Superman, being pulled by the robots, rips open his fresh bullet wounds in his chest, which causes Sol to activate his solar flare mode. Sol is really acting like a surrogate father to Cal here, especially through this issue, as he's constantly telling Cal to be careful, watch what he's doing, watch what he's saying around people, not reveal too much to people. And interestingly, Sol is afraid of the box that the Omega Men used on Cal, telling him not to go near it again. I'm looking forward to getting to know what the deal is with these mother boxes, since the Omega Men's tech all seems to be based around it. They use boom tubes, they're using these boxes to heal people, and as I said before, their whole religion is what I'll call it, is based around like the iconography of Darkseid, the Omega symbol, they say stuff like the Omega provides and all that sort of stuff. So it's intriguing to see how like the good guys, quote unquote, are using all of this iconography and stuff that is usually associated with the bad guy. They're definitely sort of like flipping the script a little bit in this world. Earlier, just before the embassy raid, Superman asks Jimmy about the box and what it is. Jimmy isn't so sure, with some people saying it came from space and others saying that it was dug up from Earth and had been buried for millions of years. He knows, however, Primus believes it came from God. She calls it the God Box. Superman knows it's actually called the Father Box, as it told him when he was being healed by it. Cal reveals to Jimmy that he saw visions of a world on fire, and Sol warns him not to say too much, but the man tells Jimmy about the fire pits he saw and a world filled with slums and tormented masses. Interestingly, this is an apocalypse, since all of this sounds exactly like Darkseid's kingdom. The fire pits, shooting out of the world, there's slums of tormented people, that's apocalypse. But here it's interestingly framed as that this is what Clark saw Earth becoming, like this is what he knows will become of Earth if Lazarus is to continue. I do wonder though if this is some hint at what Darkseid is going to be doing to Earth, turning Earth into Apocalypse or something. A plot which isn't exactly new because it's been done before, and hell, even the final season of Smallville was loosely doing this sort of stuff as well. Of course, this could not be the literal, turning Earth to Apocalypse, and it's just Cal kind of believing the planet will become a fiery hellhole thanks to Lazarus. It will become an apocalypse, if you will. But it's cool to think of this larger plot happening around Superman, and that kind of makes sense as well, since we know Darkseid is obsessed with Superman, hence why, the Absolute Legion are over in the Prime Universe at the moment, investigating that Superman over in his ongoing. So I could see him wanting to take the planet that Superman usually protects and loves and cares for and turn it into something that he cannot save and something that he will end up hating. Talk soon turns to Primus and how she goes too far sometimes, something Jimmy is well aware of, but he also begun thinking that if going too far is actually enough, since he's killed his fair share of Peacemakers as well and never seems to do anything. Cal asks a question I think we all have had, why is Jimmy an Omega Man? How did this Jimmy Olsen become an Omega Man? So Jimmy reveals his story, telling class he had a sort of existential existential crisis where he wanted to make more of his life than what it was, which was usually just doom scrolling while sitting on the toilet. And this is all because when he eventually has children, he wants to be able to tell them that he actually stood up and did something to try and save the world when it went to hell. We get some awesome connections to other Absolute books here, as Jimmy reveals that when he joined up with the Omega Men, Primus told him all their secrets and he learned things beyond his comprehension. Things like Area 41, Project Olympus, the world's richest guy being a psychopath named the Joker. All of this stuff that when was said and done, Jimmy went out and got a vasectomy, deciding that a child should not be allowed to grow up in a world this fucked up. Now that's pretty dark. That's a pretty dark story for Jimmy Olsen. Superman's power, the happy-go-lucky, usual photographer who just hangs about with Superman, gets turned into giant turtles and stuff like that. That's really grim, and it's just, the effect of the absolute world on these people, how it's just completely broken them and turned them into people who we don't recognize. We don't recognize any of these people, but there's still those little hints that of their base character kind of shining through here. Later on, Jimmy actually ends up calling Superman his pal, and it's just stuff like that that's kind of no matter the universe change, it's just that constant that just keeps popping up. Primus soon returns, offering Jimmy a chance to rank up to Alpha. She tells them of Orangi Town, where the protests for Chris Smith's massacre of the people in Pakistan is happening. Primus wants the Omega Men to go and liberate the protesters who were taken by the Peacemakers to Karachi and imprisoned. Without missing a beat, Superman demands to come along with them, and this leads to a really weird, offhanded remark by Primus, as she is the first one to call him Smallville, something Lois usually does. This caught me kind of off guard, since I didn't actually expect the nickname to appear at all in this universe, being that he doesn't have the same connection to Smallville as the Prime Universe Superman does. It's there, but it's not as powerful. I like that it's also being used as kind of an insult here. Primus is equating it to oh, he's from Smallville, this kind of backwater farm town. He's just like a farm boy hick. What does he know about anything? I kind of like that it's kind of shifted its meaning from kind of a cute little nickname to a bit of an insult. Superman refuses to take no for an answer, telling Primus that they won't allow any killing, which angers Primus greatly, but she puts up with it since Superman had the God Box save him, and it saved him for a reason, so Omega has plans for him. Back in the present, Superman rips free from the robots, supercharged by the solar flare activating. He rips through the Peacemakers, but notices Sol seems frightened by the Mother Box. Sol knows that he's not capable of such emotions thanks to how he was programmed, but Cal should be the one frightened by what this world could turn him into. This is something that's been kind of a running theme through Aaron's Superman as of late, as in the present day setting, the world is constantly throwing things at Superman, things to get him to break and change who he is as a core character and become something else, kind of bending him to become this kind of grim, dark character that most of these other characters are, these kind of beaten down people. But Cal refuses to be told what he should or needs to be. He wants to be his own person and make his own choices and lead his own life. And that is, he wants to help these people and he wants to do good. That's what he wants to do. It's those core Superman elements that no matter what is happening around him or to him, or what Darkseid does to change the world, those core elements keep rearing their head and overcoming the darkness of the absolute universe. Superman tells Sol to shut up as the Omega Men catch up to him, wanting to find the prisoners, but Cal has already found them with his X-ray vision, angrily smashing into the base as he finds all of the prisoners have been hanged. Peacemakers ambush the group, surrounding them, but Primus attacks them, calling the men butchers for what they did to the prisoners. Primus grabs one of the Peacemaker's guns and kills a Peacemaker as Jimmy calls for Superman to do something. Later, as the Omega Men head back to their base, Superman reveals that he actually caught the bullet Primus fired at the Peacemaker, but tells Sol that he hesitated, almost didn't catch it. All through the issue, Cal has been thinking about Krypton and what became of it and how it was destroyed by its own hubris and greed, and he's been seeing this all across Earth as well ever since he got there. Even more so with the Omega Men, realizing that despite them being the quote-unquote good guys, they aren't really that good either, and he begins to believe that he has to get away from these type of people and this world, thinking of leaping to the moon or something to escape the people who use him or think him to be some sort of savior to them or their salvation. This is the type of conflict I like in my Superman, where he very clearly wants to do good, but he recognizes just how big the evil in the world is and kind of gives him doubt whether he can actually stand up against this. he'll continue to try and fight, but he has that doubt kind of growing in the back of his mind that maybe it's not going to be enough. Primus hopes that he sees the truth now, since they cannot pull their punches with the Peacemakers and must kill them all. She demands that he stop being a soft Kansas farm boy and become a man of steel. Cal refuses to do such a thing, and he refuses to kill, and I really like that he doesn't explode in anger. Like, you could see it kind of building up because Primus is like constantly on him, like telling him to kill, 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 and you could just see that moment where he kind of snaps and screams at her and everything. But that never happens, and I really like that he kind of breaks down a little bit here, where like he just has this person just telling him he's going to be all of this stuff and this big man of steel and he's going to kill all these people, and he doesn't want any of that, and it kind of frightens him a little bit. And I like that Aaron and Rafa Sandoval are able to visualize that so well here, with like little speech bubbles just being like very meek and very small, very Clark Kentish, if you will. It's just so cool. Primus continues to demand he kill Chris Smith for what he has done, but Superman refuses, trying to leave the base. Before he can though, one of Primus's men alerts her to not all of them coming back through the boom tube, as it's revealed that Jimmy was kidnapped in the chaos by Lois Lane, who has taken him to an interrogation room and demands that he tell her everything he knows about Superman, while he can still speak, that is. Absolute Superman issue 9 was another powerhouse of an issue. It refused to pull its punches when exploring the grimness of the Absolute Universe, and it's wonderfully contrasted by this Superman who is affected by this dark world and is consumed by it a little bit, but he still refuses to bend and break and be consumed wholly by the dark. On top of that wonderful exploration of Kal-El, Aaron weaves in some great new lore regarding mother-father boxes, as well as some really cool teasers for some of the other Absolute books, kind of hinting at a larger world outside of this Superman book. I can't wait for issue 10, since every issue has built on Superman's character in such an interesting and unique way, and I can't wait to see what Aaron has in store for these characters next. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.